everyone, and welcome to my next edition of my Become Unstoppable series. Now I've got a great guest as usual for you today, and her name is Claire. I'll get her to introduce you in a moment.
Hey, here she is.
It worked.
Hello. And we've got a few guests on already. Welcome. Give you a little wave. So how are you?
Yeah, good.
Claire, how are you, darling? You okay?
Yeah, no, I'm great, thank you. Good to be here. My first ever Instagram live.
Oh, another virgin.
Another
I love
person.
it.
I know, well done you.
I should do a little go back and refresh myself on all my internet versions on it, because there have been a lot. I mean, to be fair, I wasn't a virgin on it as well not that long ago, so maybe I should call it Become Unstoppable and Lose Your Virginity on my series.
That
maybe,
who knows? Great catchline. Yeah.
Right, Claire, before we get started, I would like you to introduce yourself, if you don't mind, and let everyone know who you are. That will be amazing.
Okay, well, hello everybody, it's great to be here. So I'm Claire Auchmuty. There's a whole mouthful. It'll be in the notes underneath. And I live in Coleraine in Northern Ireland. I'm from Galway in the south of Ireland originally. And I am a professional divorce and relationship coach, which basically means I help people figure out how do you communicate in a better way and try and iron out some of the difficulties and figure out, is it working, is it not? And if it's not working, what's your responsibility and your role in a relationship? Because there's always two people in every single relationship, whether it's a boss or a partner or a child or whatever. And just kind of navigating the turmoil around all of that. Because in my experience, when we have a bit of an understanding, we feel a bit clearer and then we know how to go forward. So everybody has the answers within themselves, and sometimes when they're asked a different question, they find a different answer, and there it is in front of them. So that's a snapshot of what I do.
I love that. That is amazing. And we'll talk a little bit more about that, about relationships in general and just life, really, because as everyone knows here, I don't plan any of this. It's just whatever comes up. So we'll do that. But before we do that, I'm going to ask you the question I ask all my guests. So, Claire, what does being unstoppable mean to you?
We have a family motto in this house, and it says there's always a way. So being unstoppable to me is, okay, you hit what looks like a dead end in a maze or something, but there's always a way. And if there's always a way, then you do a turnaround and go, okay, well, what else is possible? So for me, being unstoppable is about keeping going in whatever direction life leads you and finding ways to navigate the tunnels of a maze, because there is always a way, always. We just sometimes aren't quite sure how to find it. So for me, the being unstoppable is pivoting, asking a different question, finding a different way, but also maybe you need some support to do that along the way, because I've needed loads and lots of times in my life. So it's not all down to me. I don't have to use more energy than I have, but if I keep thinking, I don't have to stop. This isn't a brick wall. It allows me to go, what else is possible? So that's for me probably what it is.
I totally agree with that. And as you said there, it's not always about doing it yourself. No. We can do so much for ourselves, and the biggest thing we can do for ourselves is actually stop and think about what we need, isn't it? And our self-care, and we always talk about this on these interviews, because we have to put ourselves first, otherwise we can't help anybody else. But it's also about, we do get to a point that even if with the best will in the world, you can read books, you can listen to podcasts, you can do all sorts of things to help you. But sometimes you need that extra mentoring, coaching to get you over that next level, don't you?
Yeah, because sometimes one of the things that I know is that when we keep things in our head, so podcasts and books are great because I've read and listened to loads and loads of stuff, but the stuff in our head gets magnified out of proportion sometimes. And when it gets aired in the presence of somebody else, what happens is, first of all, it dilutes it. And it doesn't seem such a big thing. It's like the 50p goes from being here to being further out, so you can see around it and go, oh, okay. And the second thing is, on that vein, it allows us to be able to go, okay, so somebody else can validate what we're experiencing, so we don't have to keep second guessing it. We don't have to go, is it me? Is what's wrong? I don't understand. Because if somebody else validates, then we go, oh, I can just, that's okay. So it is what it is. It allows us to be able to let go of things really quickly in a space that's safe. So for me, it's finding a safe space to do it, whether it's a best friend, a partner, a coach, a therapist, a counselor, whatever it happens to be. But I know the value of actually airing something out loud. That in itself is enormous. And that's what a podcast and a book and any of those things, they don't give you that.
No, because you're listening to them airing their
yeah, you're still mulling over in your head, so things can still stay out of proportion or more magnified. Or the fears, you know, the things that we fear. If somebody says it's okay to be afraid, it's like, oh, okay, right. So that's an okay thing. And even that is enormously light bulb momenting for a lot of clients.
Absolutely, I find that as well. When I work with my clients, it's very much that say they've got anxiety, for example, or lacking confidence. It's like, what I love about it is it's great that you've acknowledged it now and you want to do something about it. Let's do it. And we can do it really quickly, because it is basically all fears that we've collated over the years, isn't it? All our limiting beliefs that we had drummed into us when we were children. And we're living our lives on that old software. And that's, I keep using that analogy because it is. It's like you've got a phone and you haven't upgraded it, or your laptop's running on old software and it's running like a dog and it just doesn't work and it's like really slow, and then you get frustrated. And that's exactly what happens to us, isn't it? So we go in and we rewire it, reboot it, bang, you're living your best life. And that's what I love about it. So we actually met in business world of coaching, didn't we? So we were both, well, still are quite new in our businesses, but we needed help with that, didn't we? I'd never set up a business before. I don't believe you did.
Nope.
And how do you know? So why would you spend years and years and years trying to work it out? What you do is you go and seek to someone who's done it, been there, done it, and can help you, and you just cut out all that middle ground, all those years of trying to make it happen, when you just go and get help.
Yeah, and one of the things that I truly believe, so as a coach, I help and support my clients to see what they can't see. And I kind of feel, what kind of coach am I going to be by being authentic if I don't employ that in the rest of my world? You know, if I think I know it all and I try and figure it out myself, well, why am I coach? Because I believe in this. So, and because I believe in this, I went to, you know, do the business stuff. I mean, just this morning I was at a CrossFit gym, and I've never really lifted weights, and he had a deadlift thing, and I looked at it and I thought, what? And he kept on saying, add another 5 kilos, add 2.5, take this off, add 10. And I'm going, seriously? So by the end of it, I was deadlifting 47 kilos. Now, if you had told me and said, go in there and do that, I would have just gone, well, there's just no point, because I can't. But having support and having someone there, it made an enormous difference. And I'm like, check me out, I've just done that this morning. And that's the thing. But for me to be authentically able to support and help my clients, I need to be living what I'm doing. I need to believe in it as a modem. And whether that's for business or fitness or life, it doesn't matter. It's, I believe in the power of somebody else supporting us and helping us. And that's why I do what I do. And I'm doing what I do because if I had had me 7.5 years ago, my journey would have been much less upsetting and much different when I left my marriage. But I'm passionate about this because I didn't have me. And I really would love to use my hindsight as well as my training to help people avoid the length of time and the ups and downs and the depths of emotions and the figuring out and the energy output it took to get me to where I need to get to. And I got there in the end. So is it possible? Of course it is. But do you have to do it that way? No.
Yeah, because you would have gone through time, probably other money, wouldn't you? And the heartache of trying to understand. You know, you could have used that time more wisely in doing things like fun and enjoying yourself and spending time with your kids, couldn't you? Rather than trying to cram all this information in. So what would you say your true why is then? Why do you do what you do? What made you do that?
I do what I do because I didn't have someone like me 7.5 years ago. And my kids
7.5 years ago for you then, darling, if you don't mind.
Yeah, no. So 7.5 years ago, I was working as an A&E sister, and I've been working as a nurse for 36 years. So I changed my job and I was starting a new job, and my marriage, from my perspective, was broken beyond repair. And I thought, what am I going to do with this information? It's not fixable. Everything I tried didn't seem to work, and the boys were 4 and 6. So I stepped out of a marriage that was broken, and I changed my job at the same time. And my world was pretty difficult. And 11 months later, my mum died in an accident unexpectedly, as life happens. And I was 5 weeks heading into my first Christmas as a separated parent with 2 children. So if you're going to have a perfect storm, that's probably not that far off it, really.
Yeah, bless you.
And I didn't know how to navigate any of the emotions. I didn't know how to navigate my responses to things that were happening between me and my ex, because we were communicating about the children and different things. My doing a diploma for the first time in 16 years I was studying, and I needed to navigate that. I was with different people in my job world. So many things needed and deserved my attention, including my boys. But I kind of felt like I was juggling to stay alive and afloat and survive. And I know that that's not the only way to do this. And I look back, and when I found this training to become a divorce coach, I remember thinking, oh, there's a story I know. And that really piqued my interest, because I thought, wow, I wish I'd known about that. And then I did one training, and then I did a second diploma training. And now, between my lived experience of knowing what it's like to try and create a new identity, knowing what it's like when people don't quite know how to speak to you because dynamics have changed, I understand that an awful lot of that is about their interpretation of the idea of separating, and it unsettles them. The amount of couples in our world that got unsettled when our marriage dissolved was huge. So people don't know how to respond to what they're feeling, never mind reach out and think about me at the time. So I can help my clients to understand that it's maybe not about them, and what do they need to be okay. I think one of the biggest things as a parent on a divorce journey that I learned is, and it took me a good 9-10 months to learn this, is that all the times I was thinking, what's in the best interest of the boys? That's a good question. I made decisions that I would have chosen later on not to do, because I ended up upset for different reasons. And then I thought maybe a better question is, what is in my best interest? Because what I learned was, if I'm okay, my kids were okay, but I needed to be okay first. And as most women, mothers on the planet, anyone in healthcare, we're usually down the bottom of the pile.
Absolutely.
So putting me first was like, what do I need? I have no idea what I needed. So I had to learn all of that and figure it out. So that idea of not having had someone, I had lots of friends, brilliant friends, I had great family, but my family didn't live anywhere near me. They were hours away. So there was an awful lot of me finding my feet bit by bit, 2 steps forward, 1 step back, and doing all of that. And I can bypass that for clients. I can help them to know how to trust their ability to make a good decision. And
so do you get clients before they've got divorced as well?
Yeah.
So can you do the prevention as well as,
yeah, and that's why
too late?
I have the word relationship, because it's not just divorce coaching. Well, to be honest with you, a divorce journey starts when communication starts to break down. It's not when somebody leaves, because it's already broken by that stage. It's always broken by that point. But yes, my biggest area of passion, I think, is if you're in a should I go, should I stay? What information, if you could see it differently, would help you to understand your world? And if you're willing to take responsibility for your part in that, what difference would that make? So the unknown caveat is, because I just work with one party at the moment, the unknown caveat is, what is your partner going to do with the changes you're making? Because one person changing is enough to shift dynamics completely. And I have some clients that have children that have not only stayed, but they've stayed really, really well, and it's improved their working relationships in work, because they've taken the tools and the things that they've learned about them and stuff that we've talked about and applied it to work. So it's not just about the whole idea of it's your romantic relationship. But for me, the greatest joy is seeing somebody not need to go on a divorce journey if they don't need it. Now, if you get to a point where it's obvious that that is maybe the best option, or the only option that's going to allow better health. Sometimes somebody is loved by someone, but their love isn't healthy for the other person. And that's an interesting dynamic. But what happens then is somebody can leave and prepare to leave, and leave well, and do it in a way that when they look back from 6 months in the future, they're kind of proud of how they did it, because they didn't just explode a volcano in everybody's sitting room. They prepared, they managed it, they understood why they were doing it, they navigated their communication styles better. These things make a difference. They really, really do. And my clients testify to that.
And I'll tell you something, a couple of things happened this week, or maybe last week as well, actually. 2 random conversations I had with 2 gentlemen who said, I don't know what's going on in my relationship. My wife's just gone, like I don't know what's going on with her. How old is she? Okay. Yeah, she's probably going through the perimenopause, right? another podcast I was listening to this morning. It's the Stephen Bartlett one, but it's all about fasting and things like this and all that kind of stuff. But one of the interesting things was about, you know, the female cycle. Is about, she was going, okay, so he was saying to her, so how do I know when's what? So find out what her cycle's like. Don't talk to her during this one. When you're doing this part, that's when you're likely to get some loving, you know, because that's where, you know, all this kind of, but that's so important as well, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Regardless of your age, I mean, definitely more when you're a woman in the prime of your life, but even younger women, because it's all important around where you are in your menstrual cycle to how you're going to react.
We can blame our hormones for just about everything on the planet if you go looking hard enough.
Yeah, but it's
hormones
true though.
Big impact.
We can't help it. It's the way we've been, you know, nature made us, because it's all that cycle of life, isn't it? How, you know, we get prepared to get fertile, and that's when we're happy, and when we've got done our hair and look really lovely, you know, and then it's like, too late, you missed it. But the point is, isn't it? It's like there's so many things that can impact a relationship. It doesn't mean that you need to get divorced, does it? Or it's gonna. Sometimes, sure. I mean, I'm on my second marriage, so I'm not sitting here on my pedestal saying, "Ooh, you know, I've been there, done it." Right? I believe that was the right thing for us, and you know, luckily, I'm in the most amazing relationship now, so all good. But the point being, it doesn't have to be like that. And I've had so many conversations with my friends as well who have been through real bad ups and downs in their relationship, but it's all around how they're feeling, and they're not looking after themselves, and then they're reacting and going through the perimenopause or the menopause, you know, and it's, you throw all that together with everyday stress.
Well, the reality is, if you get a divorce, you're still bringing you into the next relationship. So maybe you would benefit from looking at you and looking at the pattern from your childhood, the patterns that you emanate from your parents that we don't realize subconsciously we actually do. You know, if you're from a family where your family, everybody exploded with upset and then it was completely forgotten about the next day, that's your conflict resolution style. If you're with someone where the family never fought and you come together with that person and you explode, that person could feel threatened, they could feel afraid, they could, so it's maybe a little bit less like you need a divorce. Maybe it's a little bit like, well, let me help me try and understand me so that I can explain me to somebody else in a different way. And maybe if I help them understand them. So it's all about how much
that domino effect, isn't it?
It is. And I love my total phrase, my clients are fed up hearing it, is let's get curious about that. Because I think when we have a strong emotional reaction, it's because there's a trigger. So the trigger is never about the other person. It's never about the person who said something, did something to hurt you. It is always about us, because the trigger is internal. They just happen to press it fairly effectively. So
you're so right. You're so right. I've had a couple of clients actually who I've worked with them specifically on relationships. That's definitely one of the topics that's on my form, if you like, when they're highlighting symptoms, right? And one of them at one point didn't know whether she was in a relationship now, or then, whatever, I don't know if she still is, and she didn't know whether she wanted children or not. But she wasn't sure whether it was, she didn't want children just because, do you know what, I just don't want them. Or she wasn't sure it was because, well, I'm in a relationship, what if I have children and it fails like all my others have failed? You know, so we did some work on that, went back to childhood, turned out it was something like when she was 2, she was sitting on the sofa with her dad and she felt she wasn't well when she went in for a cuddle when he pushed her away. He didn't really realise he'd done it, you know, or was having a bad moment. But she created the belief that she wasn't lovable. And there's a few other scenes that happen like that. So as a result of her adult life, she'd had quite a long history of failed relationships, because she gets to the point, as soon as it starts to get a little bit, I don't know, she pushes them away.
And that's a protection mechanism for her.
Yeah.
So we inbuilt these subconscious protection mechanisms because it's the only way we know how to stay safe in the world. Because our brain's only job is to keep us safe. That's all. And safe for our brains is familiar. And I explain that to my clients and go, okay, so this has served you well, because basically you're alive this morning breathing oxygen and your brain goes, damn, I'm doing a good job. But it doesn't mean you're living your best life, or you're not living life in a way that could be easier. I have a master's degree and doctorate in self-sabotage. My life was hard, and I absolutely very successfully made it very hard all on my own. So I had to unlearn, and sometimes the unlearning is harder than learning something new, unlearning old patterns.
Well, it's a habit, isn't it? That pattern is a habit, and you've spent all your life building that habit. Now you're trying to reverse engineer it.
Yeah, and what I love about the way I see the world is I can't help somebody go past what I've done. I can't. So I can learn about it, read about it, but if I haven't really lived it, I'm less effective at helping them because I don't really understand it. And Brene Brown is great when she talks about vulnerability, and she said that is being able to sit with somebody else when they're going through their stuff, and you can't do it until you've done your own. Sat with yourself. So when I go through something, and I'm a bit of a dog with a bone, when something comes up like a trigger, I'm like, what is that? Where did that come from? Let's figure that one out. But then what it allows me to do is know that in my future, some person somewhere is going to benefit from the fact that I am out the other side of this, that I know that it is possible to get past it. And it is a bit of waiting around in the dirt. But is it not better to wait around in the dirt for a short space of time to go, well, now what is possible on the other side? Because the other option is you just stay in and out of the dirt. And I thought, oh, I don't fancy doing that. But I'm able to say to my clients, look, I've done it. It's pretty rough going, but look at what's possible if you take this option and try it. So that idea of being, you know, if I can do it and I'm standing here, sitting here like this, hopefully that's inspiring enough to some people just for that bit alone that, yes, it's possible.
Yeah, and that when you get to a certain age, I think I'm older than you, but when we get to a certain age, that's when we really start thinking about that, because I was 52 when I decided to start doing what I'm doing now. I only quit my job last year, but because I was doing all of it, trying to train and, you know, get to that point.
Postcard, yeah.
In it, you know, and I know you've been doing the same, haven't you? You've been building and building and building, because it's quite hard to do, isn't it? It's not something you can just do overnight. But the feeling of, oh my God, I feel like in the first, this sounds probably horrible, or maybe I'm being a bit dramatic, but I feel like for the first time in my life, I'm actually doing something for me. But I know as a result of doing something for me, I'm able to help other people do something for them.
Totally. That's exactly what, that is it. Yeah.
And it doesn't get much better than that, does it? Really?
No.
To be able to have that gift where you can, we're always healing, right? We're still, I was talking to you earlier when about, you know, after Luther died, it's still really raw. And the last couple of months, I've been going through the motions of doing things. I've been doing these, and I've been doing my posts, and I've been beavering and doing stuff behind the scenes. But my energetic level, my manifesting level has been like, but I've recognised that and realised that actually that's okay, because I needed that time to, well, I've been journaling for the book actually, which has been quite nice. Apart from the fact my husband very often comes home from work and I'm sitting at my laptop bawling my eyes out. He's like, what's the matter? I've just relived this about me. Like, and it's like, oh God. But
we were saying before the call that, you know, last year when my dad passed away was the first time in my life I was able to process grief at the time of the grief, because I'd always been doing too many things and too much needed my attention. There is really different healing when you can process grief at the time, because grief is a journey and it's not linear, it's up and down. And whether it's the loss of a person, the loss of identity, the loss of a marriage, all of this is the grief journey. And when we allow ourselves the space to go, it's okay to not be firing on all cylinders. My best today might look like this, and my best 5 weeks ago before the event would be very different, but they're still your best on any given day. And this idea of being compassionate with ourselves is not one that we're overly familiar with as human beings, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think when we do what we do as well, there's that little bit of how vulnerable can we be in front of people, because we're there to help everybody else. And it's like trying to be authentic, but how authentic, you know? And I very much, and I think you're the same really, we kind of very much wear our heart on our sleeves, don't we? And whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, I think it's a good thing, because I think not everyone's going to work with you, not everyone's going to work with me, okay? So you have to resonate with someone. And if us being ourselves and being vulnerable and telling it how it is resonates with people, then that's great. But if it puts other people off, then that's fine too, isn't it?
They're not the right person to work with either.
No.
So yeah, and that's it. Because the concept of whether it's coaching or therapy, whatever it is, the concept is very good, but it needs to be the right fit. So when people contact me, I will always say, let's have a call and let's see if you feel that I'm the right person for you, in as much as I feel that you're the right client for me. Because if that match isn't there, then it's not going to work. Doesn't matter how good a process is, it won't work, because somebody's not going to be able to give or receive in a way that has ease and flow. So the thing I've learned in my life is, it is possible to have ease and flow, and I want to keep my world in that. So when you have the right connection with the right person, and you feel, oh, okay, I feel this is a safe space. I think this is, you feel an excitement of something because you think, oh, something might be possible here. That's the feeling of, right, we don't need to know more, we don't need to know the answers, but we know we're in a good starting point. And it's important that both people going to work in a space like this, because of what it entails, feel that. It's not just that the client feels it or that I feel it. It needs to be a two-way thing. So if I felt that a client wasn't going to be best suited for me, for whatever reason, what I would do is say, look, I feel that you would be best suited to work with somebody like this. Let me signpost you. Let me give you some details, because I think this is a better fit for you. And it's not that I don't want to work with someone. It's that I feel that my skill base is not going to best serve this client. And for me, that's authenticity too, because I'm looking at it going, I really want you to have the best. And if I don't feel that I can deliver that because of whatever reasons, then let's not get into this contract. It's not going to be a good plan for either of us.
Yeah, I've had that too. And you do have to trust your intuition, don't you? Because there has been, especially in the beginning, because at the beginning, when you're starting out, you're like, oh, I just need to get whoever I can get to get the money in. You know, then after a while, you're like, well, you normally learn from your mistakes, don't you? I've had one, I think, and I'm like, didn't listen to my intuition there, or I should have focused more on my intuition. But it's all a learning curve, isn't it? You do the initial call. I do the same as you. I do a free consultation call, and you don't win them all, and that's fine. But that's another thing in itself, isn't it? Because when you're doing this, it's quite a vulnerable thing as well. Because it's like, oh, what did I do wrong? Why did they not like me? Then you start all that self-talk, don't you? So I've had to learn, and through therapy and through working on myself, that actually that's okay. Not everyone.
It's not about that.
Yeah. But
the default is what's wrong with me, but it's not about that.
Not.
So much of life is not about apportioning blame. It's that, no, it just didn't feel right, so that's okay.
Yeah.
For whatever reason. Sometimes we don't need to figure it out.
Or sometimes I've looked back on the call and I thought, actually, I didn't deliver that very well. So then you learn from that, right? So it's all a learning.
It's not failure. It's just all learning.
Yeah.
You know? But for me, it is, I'm doing this because I believe that when somebody is ready, they will find me at the time that they're ready for me to show them what they can't see in whatever format of their life that happens to be. And therefore, there is ease and flow with that because somebody is ready.
100% agree. And that's something I've had to learn as well. You know, the whole manifestation, the whole, open to receiving and things like that. That's all very much a learning curve for me. And I'm loving that now, going on that journey of trusting my intuition, trusting that the universe is going to provide for me. But you do have to be putting the right messages out. And as soon as you're not doing that, then it all stops. So it's about keeping your vibration up, isn't it? Keeping your energy up and really knowing what it is you want. And that's what's great with coaching and therapy, isn't it? Where you can really get my clients, when I do a session with them, the first thing we do is like, okay, what are your symptoms? What's happening for you right now? And then we do, what would you like your life to look like? And some of them really struggle, but I really have to sit with that and then come on, like, okay, so if you didn't have anxiety anymore, what would you be doing? Oh, well, everything. Yeah, but what's everything? You know, you have to really chunk them, don't you? Chunk them up, chunk them down, because they just have sweeping statements, because it's really difficult to think. But once you get
questions they've never asked themselves.
Exactly.
I mean, these are all questions that I never asked myself with different things either. So, and that's why, because when I used to work in A&E, it was life-threatening. If somebody didn't get asked the right questions in triage, they could have died if they went back to the waiting room and somebody missed something.
Yeah.
So you weren't allowed, it wasn't safe to be in triage unless you'd done X amount of years training. And the reason for that was to keep the patient safe. So for me, if I don't ask the right questions, the client's not going to unlock the right information or the best information to help them to see. So it's about asking better questions. And I absolutely have this thing that I believe there's power in a better question.
Absolutely.
And I need people in my life asking me better questions than I ask myself to help me to be a better version of me, in the same way that I want to pass it to clients.
And the one that clients hate is you ask them a question and they go, I don't know. And I go, but if you did know. And they go, oh, don't ask me that. But when you do start thinking about it, and when you start tapping into your heart and your intuition, it comes, doesn't it? Yeah. You do know what you want. Your conscious brain is too active, and we need to close that off for a little while and tap into your subconscious, tap into your intuition, switch off your mind for a bit, then it comes.
Yeah, and a lot of it's to do with feeling. So often in life what happens is you notice something because you feel it first.
Yes.
And then you go, oh, okay, what is that? So, you know, for a lot of the clients that I have, they would have triggers and red flags and different things. And I would say to them, look, when you think about it and you know what it is, that's one thing. But when you can go past thinking about it and go, there it is again, because you feel it, what means then is you can actually save your energy, because you don't have to figure it out. You just need to know, I know this feeling and this is what it's connected to. And that's how you can move forward in different ways too. And we're all like, I mean, being human is fairly complex.
Yeah.
But the thing I love about it is I will never stop learning. I love learning how I work, how I tick, why I tick. I love interacting with my kids. My 14-year-old goes, are you coaching me again? I'm like, no. So what I do is I actually ask him, I go, can I coach you? So if there's something, I'll say, can I actually coach you? And then I get his permission. So then he leans in because I've asked his permission.
Oh, I like
so, you know, it's just all interesting. And I go, well, look at that. So I find it fascinating. And like there's a whole rest of my life to learn. So like, it's great.
Yeah, I know what you mean. And I've done a lot of stuff with my family as well. And they're like,
the 3 guinea pigs.
Yeah, doing that. No, yeah, but I can't help it. And then they go, when I'm with people, they go, you analysing me? I go, no. And they go, yeah, you are. I go, okay, but I can't help it. Because I'm listening to, or, you know, you start listening to the words they're using, don't you? And you go, oh, that's interesting. Oh, yeah. Oh, they think they're not enough. I bet. And then I might just ask someone, they go, how do you know that? And I go, just use my intuition. Because you do, although everyone's got their own story, their own maybe traumas, maybe, you know, their own lives, but actually when you get down to the nitty-gritty of it, everybody's issues are the same. Because when you get down to the core of it, because it's about having, you know, those core root beliefs that you're not good enough, you were unlovable, you felt different, you didn't have your needs met, like all when you was a child, and those beliefs you've created. So I could see 1,000 clients and every one of them would come down to one or a few of those.
That's right. It just looks different because the stories are different.
Yeah.
And it's about the interpretation, isn't it? It's how we interpret something. And how we interpret something then is how we outwork who we are in the world. And it serves us okay, but maybe something different would serve us better. So that's the, you know, when I hear people doing just affirmations, I think, yeah, there's a point and they're good, but if you don't go and find out where something came from in the first place, you don't shift it. And at that point, they're just what I would call almost toxic positivity. You're just saying things and it's your energy is being forced to hear. Whereas if we can get a little bit more curious and go below, it's like, okay, well, let's have a look and see. And one of the reasons I love about being curious is it's not threatening. There's no spotlight going on. It's just, let's have a look and take it at your pace and see what we can find and just see where does it lead, because it'll lead somewhere better than we have now. That's the environment that I love working in.
Yeah, true. And I do elements of coaching as well as my therapy part, but it's all kind of part of it really. But when I'm in the mode and I'm with my client and we're doing the hypnosis and we're really going for the root cause, what I love about that is the clients are like, oh my God, where did that come from?
I know.
And I go, well, it's always been there. You just don't know it's there because we're living in our 5% of our conscious brain, aren't we? And we don't always allow ourselves to go into it because back to the point you were making earlier about, you know, it's our brain's job to keep us safe. If you've suffered trauma or some memories that you don't really want to remember, your brain shuts down. So to keep you safe, doesn't it? Because going back, remembering all that is not necessarily good for you. However, if you haven't released those feelings and emotions from that trauma or that event, that's when it becomes dangerous, because that's when it manifests into psychological and physical conditions.
Yeah, and I look at that and I describe that as having lots of balloons tied down at the bottom of a swimming pool. And when something like what you're talking about, hypnosis, is, it's like one of those balloons gets loose and it pops up to the surface. So they're all there, we're just not aware of them because we're so familiar with them. They're all there, but they're so far down that we don't need to look for them. And with something like hypnosis, we don't need to actively look and go, flip, I can't remember. We just let something rise to the surface, whatever memory it is that's important for this particular time, and trust that our bodies know what it is that we need in the space that we're in to look for something new, to allow change and growth.
That's absolutely spot on, and I love that analogy. I might steal that about the balloons, right? And when we pop that up, we pop it.
That's it, and then it's gone. Yeah, but it'll come up when it's ready to. When you start to, it's almost like you want to go deep diving to get something. That's not how it works. Subconscious isn't safe enough to let something go until it feels safe, and so much of that is when you're in a safe environment. And generally speaking, a lot of the time that's when you're with someone who knows how to guide you and help you, and you can't see them, and know what to do with that. Because sometimes there's not a lot of benefit to knowing something if you don't know what to do with that information. It can overwhelm you like a tsunami, and you go, flip, I don't know what to do with that. And that's another part of having a safe space, isn't it?
Yeah, that's true enough, because you might go, oh, I know I behave like that because of X, Y, and Z. I know I do it, but I'm still doing it. And that's because that's learnt behaviour. That's a habit, isn't it? So it's about unravelling, it's understanding that habit, understanding why we do it. Like if you take something like smoking, drinking, anything like one of those obvious, overeating, obvious habits, it's because there was a time in your life when doing that particular action, whether it was smoking or overeating, it gave you that nice feeling. And your body remembered that. So interesting, something like eating, right? Some clients who like regress back, who have got, they're overweight, for example, they might go back to a scene and go, oh, I go back to a scene with my granny. I loved being with my granny because I felt safe, because maybe the rest of their life wasn't. And granny used to give me chocolate biscuits and cakes and sweet things. So when they had those sweet things, it made them feel
safe.
So so their body recognises that and goes, oh, that's such a lovely feeling, I want more of that. So as they get older, they keep going and doing that and buying the cakes and stuff, because they get that short dopamine hit, don't they, of happiness. But then of course, once you've got that sugar in your system, the sugar goes, I want some more. And then that's when you get in that terrible habit and that terrible cycle. And then before you know it, you've got an eating problem.
And it's like in everything in life, there's a cost and a payoff to everything.
Yeah.
But the payoff for that is you get the feeling of the dopamine hit, but the cost is that you put on weight and then you don't feel good about yourself, and then your self-image goes down, your self-esteem goes down. So when the cost becomes higher than the payoff, that's generally when people start to look for help in whatever form.
You lose your confidence then, don't you? Because you don't want to go, and then your visibility is gone, then it impacts your career, then it impacts your relationships. And this is the whole thing, right? So you've gone domino, well, reverse of a domino, I suppose.
Yeah, but that's what it is.
And then you're up here, but actually the root was here when you were 3 years old, when you were trying to seek attention from your parents, but you didn't get it. But look at what's happening in your life still. So you get to that root cause, understand it, desensitize it. So what I do, when we find it, the situation, the belief, the root cause, we see where we feel it in our body. So it's that feeling, like you were saying just now.
Yeah.
And then if say it was anxiety, for example, they might go, oh yeah, I feel it here. I feel it in my stomach. And then we go, well, is that how you feel it now? Like in everyday life? Yeah, it's exactly the same feeling. So when they have that anxiety attack, they get heart palpitations, saying a dodgy stomach, but it's nothing really to do with what's going on now. It's going right back to when they were 3 years old, and the feeling and emotion that their brain remembered in their body, and it's going back to that all the time.
Yeah, it is.
So it's acknowledging that, and then we do different things to get rid of that. In fact, we do visualization of, because we go in, well, I get them to go to inside themselves to find the part, because we create parts, don't we? We always say part of me feels this, part of me feels that. Anxiety, stress, physical conditions, they're all something that our clever brain has created to protect us. We go in and find it, and then we visualize it, and then we get it to leave the body. It's quite incredible.
It's amazing. Like it is, it's truly astounding. And that's why I love the idea of the fact that, you know, there's lots of different ways of doing this, but they are all empowering to change something, to change a life. And the only thing that's required for this is someone's desire to not stay where they are.
Yeah, absolutely.
So in whatever form it is.
Yeah. Change, if you do nothing, nothing changes, right? So if you don't want to carry on doing what you're doing, then as uncomfortable as it might be, you need to do something.
Yeah.
And that's what puts people off, isn't it? A lot of the time. It's
fear,
like,
isn't it?
Fear. Yeah, it's too hard. It's too difficult. I haven't got time for that. But absolutely spot on. It's that fear. But then, like you say, let's get curious to find out where that fear came from. Boom, 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 boom. Oh, it was when you was 5 years old and this happened. You know, because we're only born with two fears. Fear of loud noises and fear of falling, right?
That's right. Yes, as babies. Yeah, that's
everything
right.
else we learn.
Yeah.
Or create.
Conditional.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And everything just becomes a habit then, right? So, well, if you've created it, then you can
uncreate it. Yeah, you can. And that's the thing. If you have brought in this belief and it's not real, it's just a belief, it's not a fact, then you can change the belief. You have the power to do that.
Of course you can. And that's what I teach my clients as well. I do the therapy with them, but it's all teaching them techniques on how they can do that, how they can recognize that thought and go, hang on, that's just come into my head again. I'm really ugly. No, I'm not going to use that example actually, because people go, no, you are. But I don't know, I'm stupid. Oh, I'm really stupid. I should have done that. Oh, hang on a minute. That thought's just come. Am I really that stupid? Look at all the stuff I've done. No, I'm not having that. That's going to go. So that's going to go in one ear and go out the other way. And just to know that, I'm going to readjust my state. And I'm going to smile and go, you can jog on because I'm not stupid. And then I'm going to go, oh, that thought came, thank you, now it's gone. And it's not letting them stay in your head, isn't it? That's the key.
Yeah, it's the first key to anything is, if without awareness you can't have change.
Yeah. So
you have to have awareness. And it is that sense of, I mean, I would talk to my clients and say, well, let's find an evidence pathway that tells me you're not stupid. Tell me some stuff you've done. So then when you have the evidence pathway, then somebody can go, okay, so there's that thought, but actually I've done X, Y, and Z, because they have something to counteract it with. And so the awareness is they've heard the thought consciously, and then they can let it go and go, no, that I'm disregarding that. And
that's very true, and that's very connected to what we were talking about earlier about the questioning, isn't it? So if you say, like, you probably to get to that point, you probably said, oh, what have you done in your life? And they've got nothing, and they go, really? You're, I don't know, 50 years of age, and you've done absolutely nothing in your life? Really? Well, okay, I've done it. Okay, so there's a starting point, and that's when it all starts happening, isn't it? And then before you know it, they're like, actually, yeah, right, I'm bloody amazing.
Which is such a privilege to work with someone, to see the shift and the change. Like, it's such a privilege to be in a position to do that. And it's only that because you and I have gone through all the shit to get to here. Like, we've done it, we've lived it, we've walked it, we've learnt it, we've figured it out, and we've had help to do it. And life is pretty good when you get to that point and you can think, I know that you don't have to stay here. I know that. So I don't have to convince you. I can just tell you, and you choose whether you want to lean in and borrow my belief until you get your own, or whether you want to stay where you are. That's your choice. Yeah. I'm not going to fix you, but I do believe that you are able to change.
Yeah. And it's that whole thing about what we were talking about earlier, about when you do that, maybe that call and they're not right. You're not ready yet, are you? No, I'm not. Okay, we'll come back when you are, isn't it? And it's understanding that everybody has to be ready, because it's not easy to do. To make change is actually harder than doing nothing. So if you're in like a relationship that's not really working out, I did it for a long time, like stayed in a relationship because I didn't want to face the consequences of what was going to happen when I wasn't. you know, the financial side of it, what it was going to do to my son and everything else. So you avoid doing anything, don't you? Just because, although it's
actually, what does happen,
easier.
this is the interesting thing. When people say, I'm in a should I go, should I stay space, I kind of go, well, you've already made a decision. And they go, no, I haven't. I go, no, you have, because you're still there. You've actually chosen to stay. You're just telling yourself, should I go, should I stay? I don't know what to do. But you're still there. So you've actually made a decision. And that's very interesting to see people with that penny drop and they go, oh. But that gives them a different starting point.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah.
And that makes a difference because we all have choices. And if somebody chooses to stay in a relationship that's not 100% brilliant, that's fine. That's their choice. But how they live in that relationship can be different.
Yeah. And if you make that decision to stay, then you have to do that on the basis that, you know, you're going to be changing stuff. Because if you just go, oh, I'm just going to leave it, well, in a month's time, 6 months' time, it's probably going to get worse, isn't it?
Well, that's the cost and payoff.
Yeah.
And the thing is, when somebody sees something, you can't unsee it. You can't unsee it. So you go, okay, well, right, this is where I am, and now what do I do with that? And some people don't ask themselves that question, and that's equally fine. I'm not there to judge and tell them you can have a better life, you should leave. No, it's entirely up to you, because I will never know the whole story of someone's life. I am just have been given a snapshot of what somebody chooses to tell me. Yeah. So what I can do is say to them, I mean, my strapline is your story matters, because I believe that if you believed your story mattered, what is then possible? Because that was my starting point a long time ago. And my first question years and years ago, before I left my marriage, was, is this God's best for me? Could this be God's best? And I thought, what do I do with that question? And that was kind of the starting of learning and growing and changing. And it took a long time because of the fears and all that. And I think we're never ready, but if we're at a point where we feel it's safer to try, then we're at a good place. Because we know if we do nothing, this will stay and probably get worse, or maybe not. But if we try something, there's a world of possibility that opens up that we don't understand what it will be like, but maybe it might be exciting to find out.
And like you were saying earlier, that by working on yourself, even if your partner doesn't get involved in any of the work, you can still have phenomenal results. I mean, I've worked with clients before who have gone, oh my God, I don't know what's happened. Everything's changed. And because they understood how they were functioning. And there was one client of mine, she, every time her husband came home, she used to get this like sweeping hotness in her chest and everything, right? And so we looked at that and we understood why that happened. So now she doesn't do it anymore. But already there's a relaxation in their relationship, because we've cleared some of her wardrobe, shall we say, cleared the closet out, right? She's now open to talking about things which she wasn't before, and he's actually open to listening. And
isn't that fabulous? Like, that is just absolutely brilliant.
Yeah. And she said a few things, and I kind of went, well, don't you think that makes it horrible for him when X, Y, Z happens? And she was like, oh, I never really thought about it like that. So even for us to sort of, for want of a better phrase, pick them up on their behaviour and go, well, actually, if you was to look at that from his point of view, how do you think you would feel? And it was like, oh my God, I hadn't really, you know, so it's
and again, there's a better question. It's asking better questions to help somebody see things from different perspectives and different sides.
Yeah, so it is pretty amazing, and to get them together would be good, because I did counselling training a long time ago, and one of the parts of it, I did couple counselling, and that was really good, because when you've got two of them in the room, you can go, well, what do you think about that? Oh, I didn't realise that's how it made you feel, didn't you? No, well, why did you never say it? You know, and you can clear up stuff so quickly.
Yeah, and what I love is the idea of helping somebody to say something in a way that has the best chance of being heard. Because it's what you say and it's what people hear, and they're very different. And that's a lot of what I do, is how do we use language? Because if you can say something and have the best chance of being heard, what might be possible then?
And even like I was saying to you earlier on that podcast I was listening to, it's like finding the right moment. You know, guys apparently every 15 minutes they have the testosterone rush, right? So she said, if you ask a question and you don't like the answer, just wait another 15 minutes and ask it again, and you'll probably get a completely different one.
I'm going to remember that one.
But that's the thing, isn't it? learning. It's a learning about behaviours, learning about the language that's being spoken, and learning your partner. And if it does mean you got to monitor your wife's partner's menstrual cycle, then do it, because
Well, it's in their best interest. It's in everyone's best interest. Yeah.
You know, so listen, we've
covered a lot of ground, haven't we?
minutes. I told you it goes fast. So we ought to wrap up. It's been lovely speaking to you, sweetheart. So do you want to give everybody just an overview of what you've got coming up, or what they can expect from you if they feel they need some relationship or divorce help?
Yeah, well, probably the best place for me, having explained myself, is my website, because it has lots of information about who I work with, what I do, how I help, and all of that kind of stuff. So we'll maybe put that on the link because of my name. So it's claireauchmutycoaching.com. But also I work with on a YouTube channel with 2 other divorce coaches. Salma lives in London, and Simone lives in Germany. And we have uploaded 2 episodes a month for the last over a year and a half. So there's plenty of free content there where we just talk about our lives and different topics. And so there's all, what's the word I would say? It all has titles, so it's easy to find something that might be applicable, just to kind of hear our 3 different perspectives, because like X amount of divorce coaches will have X amount of different perspectives. So that's just another thing that I have. So, and I do Facebook Lives quite a lot. So I'm on Facebook more as a platform, but having just been a Instagram virgin, I am going to be I saw Jenna, I don't know if you're still on, Jenna. Yes, my Instagram account is going to get more upgraded. That's this week's project. So yeah, I know, it's like that's been on a long finger, so it's going to get sorted. So I will be seeing more on Instagram in the coming days. So thank you. It's been wonderful chatting. You and I could chat for Ireland.
Fun. I always say I've really enjoyed myself, but whether the listeners have, I think they have. We've had some nice comments coming up, and I do feel bad because I don't acknowledge the comments, but it's quite a lot to take on board when you're listening, talking, and reading.
And also sometimes it interrupts flow.
It does. But thank you for all your wonderful comments.
Yeah.
Thank
you. I love you for bearing with us.
I hope you enjoyed it, and as ever, you can get all my details from my Instagram, because just click into my bio and you've got my link tree there, so you can see all my different areas. I support men and women. My current tag really is professionals and business owners, but I help you to become unstoppable by unlocking your confidence, or whatever you need unlocking really. So what I do is not counselling. I go to the root cause to understand what's really going on for you, and we eradicate it and then replace that with new empowering beliefs. So there's no need for you to live your life now stuck, right? So we can do this in a month, even, like become unstoppable in 30 days.
Amazing.
So
amazing.
We love what we do. We love serving you. We're here for you. If either of you need us, you can find us, and we look forward to hearing from you.
Yes, absolutely.
So, thank you so much, my darling, and also thank you very much for stepping in at late notice, because I had a cancellation.
Thank you.
And so thank you for being another Instagram virgin, which of course you are no longer an Instagram virgin.
No.
You're an expert now.
Oh, I tell you what, my life has just got elevated. It's great.
So thank you, darling, and I'll speak to you soon.
Brilliant.
Thanks, guys, for watching, and thank you everybody who is watching this on the video. And also, I'm going to be launching my YouTube channel soon, and I'm going to be posting all of my interviews on there. So I'm really excited for that as well. So take care, everybody.
All right. Bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.